Welcome to the final podcast of 2021. I wanted to have all four of us here today, but Morty's not able to make it. So I'm joined by Campo and Tony. Finishing the year in style. It's match week 20's review. Should we just jump straight into it? Campo, you're going to get to lead us off here. It was Southampton 1 versus Spurs 1. Talk to us, mate. Thoughts on the game?
Controversial game of the round.
Why exactly?
Beautiful. Southampton started off deservedly, opened the scoring. They were all over us for the first 15 minutes. Beautiful. That was probably one of the goals of the round as well by James Ward-Prowse. The technique on that was incredible. And then, we started taking over. Son goes down. Salisu gets sent off. Stupid challenge when you're already on a yellow card. And then Harry Kane's leading goal to take the lead. Was that offside?
I think you'll find it's hard because Phil Foden later on, as we know, scores basically an identical, line comparison VAR, and they give it a goal, and this one's not. So I think that's, again, we can go on every single week about VAR. That's the problem with it. It's not. But
didn't they fix it this year to stop those things happening? That if the lines were touching.
Yeah, and I haven't yet seen one where that has occurred.
I think Martin Atkinson's got it completely wrong in the VAR box then. And also, Matt Doherty attempts to go for the ball. Fraser Forster never controls it.
I think he does.
He never claims it.
They always favour keepers, no matter what. It doesn't matter what kind of touch they get. They always favour keepers, and that's the problem. I think,
except for when Fred hits your own goalkeeper, then they favour the attacking team.
That's the Australian player, though.
Are keepers too protected in the Premier League now?
I think they are a little bit, but you've got to understand that. I don't know. I suppose if there's no keeper in net, it's easier to score, and that's why they do sub the keepers. I think in this instance, maybe it is a bit light, but I think it's probably the correct call given the ruling around keepers. The Hurricane one I can understand that you're frustrated about. Tony, what were your thoughts then on this game?
Oh, I mean, it's just become a common trend, isn't it? Tottenham and VAR controversy. The week before, Kane should have got sent off. This week, it's gone against them. So you don't want to say that they're up in the box trying to make things even, but it's got to go through someone's mind if they are up there. Hey, they got lucky last week, so if there is something close or controversial, let's lean towards. We see it too often that a team gets favoured one week and then a week or two later, they get a core goal against them. So, but on the basis of a game, like Campo said, Southampton deserved that lead. I think you called that goal. One way or the other. One of us called Prowsey, one of us called Kane.
Yeah.
But again, 2 points dropped for Tottenham, and in the scheme of things, a very good point for Southampton.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on with that VAR call there. It does seem to balance itself out over the course of the season, in a way, I suppose. I suppose the game itself, Spurs would have gone to this thinking they were going to get 3 points pretty comfortably, but it is a good result for Southampton. Now they're unbeaten in 3, 1 win, 2 draws. So it's not amazing, but look, it's kind of pushing them a little bit further out of that relegation battle, which is what they needed, really. Spurs, on the other hand, I suppose it would have been a massive win had you have got this, because it would have really taken you towards that 4th spot. You've got a couple of games in hand, so you can still obviously get there, but this would have been one of those ones you'd look at and think it's winnable.
Do you think that for VAR checks, referees if they, instead of having a third person say, go look at this, if a referee is not sure about a challenge or anything, I think they should be the ones that signal, like an NRL will go to video ref, they can go and look at the screen.
It's going to come like the NFL if you do that. Every time there's a 50-50 challenge, you can stop the game and have to go look at it for 2-3 minutes.
It's like they don't want to slow the game down too much, but obviously bringing in VAR does slow it down. So then, you add in more steps, and it just becomes, like Tony said, it's an American sport at that point where it's just stoppage after stoppage. They're going to start getting sponsors in to do ad breaks, and we don't want that. We love live football. That's the end of the day. So
ad break.
If they just go get rid of VAR tomorrow, I'm not complaining, honestly. I know.
I still think on the basis that it's been around, it has correctly decided titles. Like that Liverpool would have been a goal, most likely if there wasn't goal line technology. They win that title. Instead, City go on to win the title. So it's had its good things. It's going to have its bad things, but it goes on.
it's probably like a 70-30 or so, maybe even.
In the end, it's not VAR. It's not VAR that's the issue. It's the person and the interpretation of the rules that is the biggest issue here.
Well, I would like to see what happens with this offside thing, though, given that they're trying to do that purple line there, whatever, where it is on, and we haven't yet seen it. I feel like that's probably close enough for them to do that, but I don't know.
Just get them into a post game. The referees and the VAR at the end. If the refs have to do it, if the players get them in there.
I just want to see ref interviews. Just want to see it happen. It's never going to happen, but I want to see it. That'd be cool. Is it a poor result then, Campo? Then, how are you feeling post game?
The post game, you understand why Dele Alli should be the first one out the door. Again, there are a lot of still Conte had to play players he didn't want to play. Again, he said he's bringing players in January, so I'm excited to see who he wants in. But yeah, poor result, but we can bounce back with Watford next week and march on.
Well, speaking of Watford, thanks for that intro. It is Watford 1, West Ham 4. Well, I think we probably all could have predicted this one. I know Tony and I predicted this one. Obviously, Campo, you weren't there, but you probably would have said the same thing. West Ham, they're back to winning ways after a couple of defeats in a row. Watford, a lot of losses in a row. And this is a Claudio Ranieri who was supposed to turn this ship around. And now all of a sudden there's a few reports coming out that he might be on the verge of being sacked again. We know Watford do that often. We know they love to just ship through managers. But is it too soon for Ranieri sacking? Is this a game that was just always going to go this way? Tony, what do you reckon?
Oh, I mean, I don't want to say they're hard done by because the scoreline, obviously, in the basis of the game shows that West Ham deserved the win. I'm going to turn attention to, obviously, the penalty that West Ham did receive. The keeper and the player have both gone for the ball. If you watch the replay, the keeper will get to the ball if the player doesn't knee him in the arm. So that was a big turning point because instead of being 2-1 in the balance, that's gone 3-1, and that was game over for Watford. So I think it's too early to get rid of Ranieri. If you do get rid of him, there's not many better managers out there that can come in and try and survive, if that makes sense. Like, what, you're going to go for a Sean Dyche? You're going to go for a Big Sam? Who are you going to go for? Who's going to come in knowing that you're a couple points ahead of Burnley and Burnley have 4 games in hand? So too early, but good result for West Ham. Put them back into 5th for the time being, and happy days for West Ham and troubling times for Watford.
Burnley don't exactly have 4 games there. They have 1 game in hand over Watford. Keep that in mind. So it's not as though they've got... So it's a bit closer than you think. But, I don't think that... Why would you replace Ranieri? Ranieri was brought in for a reason. I still think they can well and truly stay up. But Watford do like to sack managers like there's no tomorrow. But given the way the game was going, how do you think this one was going to play out, Campo? Obviously,
I thought
result.
You expect West Ham to win, but I'll tell you what, even though they've lost game after game, Emmanuel Dennis has been a revelation for Watford.
Absolutely.
They're losing, but he's been absolutely incredible, so I won't take anything away from him. It's just their defense. They just do not stop conceding goals. I don't know if Ranieri needs to start that mindset of, we're not a Leicester, we're not going to score 4 goals a game. We'll sit back, we'll play for nil-alls, and we'll hit them on a counter. I don't know what Watford have to do, but they can't keep playing the way they are.
You always respect teams that go out to win, but there's just teams like a Watford and a Norwich that they just don't have the squad to do that. So why do they not change their ways? Why do you not change their ways?
Do not compare anyone to Norwich. They're in a league of their own. We're not comparing anyone to them.
All right, how about Burnley, for example, then? Burnley's conceded 11 goals less than Watford, but they got 2 points less. So which approach works better? Like, Sean Dyche has got Burnley playing this stubborn English football, and then Ranieri comes in, or not even just Ranieri, before that even, and Watford, they play some exciting football at times, but it doesn't always work out. Which do you think?
I mean, from a neutral, you want the attacking football from a neutral fan. If you're a Watford fan, you're probably going pick the games where we think we can get 3 points from. If that's a Norwich, if that's a Newcastle, let's go all that attack. If it's a City, a Liverpool, a Chelsea, Tottenham, United, whoever it is.
Well, you could probably even play West Ham's in that bracket as well.
Yeah, like let's defend for that point, and then we'll win the games that we have to win to try and survive relegation. Let's not try and lose, 12 points in a row. Let's try and get 4 from that or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, when Ranieri came in, we all thought, oh, he's turning around. He'll lose a few, but he's starting to win a few. Now he's literally lost too many in a row. It's a tough one. His job probably is under threat again, unfortunately, just because of the way Watford run their club. But we all think he should probably give him a bit more time. But we're going to move on to another team that is not performing well at the moment. It was Norwich 3-0 defeat against Palace. Campo, we'll start with you again. Thoughts on this game? Patrick Vieira's got Palace playing some great football.
I wouldn't say anyone plays great football against Norwich. They just play football. Especially without Gallagher, without Zaha, without Eze. This is a game that Norwich should have been, well, we actually have a chance. We can get points from this. And they just looked shit. It was an Edward field day, a goal and two assists. He tore them apart, made him look like prime Thierry Henry again. But again, very poor from Norwich, and they're going down.
Tony, thoughts?
Nothing in defence, nothing in the midfield, nothing in attack, and that's all I've got to say. They're useless, and again, like Campo said, you don't have to play good football. United showed it. We played terrible for 90 minutes, and we still got a result. So you don't have to play good football against them to get a result.
Yeah, I can't really argue with as much there. I do want to ask the question, though. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Billy Gilmore situation. He's getting basically told to, in kind of terms, F off back to Chelsea. What are your thoughts on that? They're turning on a lone player, but where the other players performing? He's been one of their better players since then. I'm not trying to throw the Chelsea bias in there, but he has been a much better player than 80% of their squad. So what are your thoughts on the fans jumping on his back there? A lone player. Tony?
You know he's not going to be there at the end of the year, so you're not going to rip into a player that might be there in the championship that's going to try and lift you next year. So I guess Billy Gilmore coming from a club like Chelsea, I'm not saying he's playing bad, he's playing good football, but he's not playing at the level of he's going to go back to Chelsea and start, which is unfortunately what Norwich fans think. So, mate, they're deluded. They're going down and they're going to get everything they deserve. So,
yeah, bro, agree with
that? When you play for Chelsea, you come in on loan, you have expectations. Obviously, he's not meeting the expectation of the fans, and, it is what it is.
Interesting to say. They must have thought they were getting Ronaldo at this point. It was going to turn the season around, but one player can't do it all, especially a holding midfielder, for example. It's not Messi. But we're going to move into is it the shock result of the round, Tony? Do you think we don't have any Morty here to talk about it?
Call it the reason Morty isn't here of the round. So he is stuck in traffic. We'll give him credit, but I mean, yeah, big upset. Obviously, Leicester went in with a game plan. That game plan was. Sit back, hit him on the counter. Hopefully he can score a goal, and then up pops Lookman 3 minutes onto the field. Instead of trying to take Van Dijk on, does the smart thing, goes near post, and he finished it. And, I mean, great all-round performance. Big save by, obviously, Schmeichel in net. Again, we'll speak in last pod, me and you, Aaron, about Salah disappearing, especially in big moments, and we all thought he was going to bounce back, and instead he's in the papers for a different reason. So it's always a good day when Liverpool drop points.
We spoke in the preview that we thought that Leicester having to straight back into another game after playing a 6-3 against City where they would have been running for days, that it wasn't going to help them. But it did help them. Liverpool were the ones that were keeping here. Like you say, Kasper Schmeichel, game of his life. He always puts in big performances. He's a fantastic keeper. Lookman, comes straight off the bench. Scores a goal. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I want to throw more shade at him. What's he doing there? He's not defending. He's just jogging back. Van Dijk, he didn't defend the greatest there. And Leicester, massive 3 points against City's main challenges, I'd say, along with Chelsea. So is it City's title now wrapped up? We'll get into City a bit later. But Campo, thoughts on this game? And did Liverpool miss a beat here?
Oh, I think Salah's missed the goal like a tap in. It falls straight to his head and he heads it onto the post. I don't know how he does that, but again, that goal Leicester scored, they should never have scored. There are so many wrongs in the way Liverpool defended that. They could have easily stopped that. Even Alisson getting beaten on his near post, that should have never happened. And again, you don't take your chances, you get punished in the Prem, and prime example of that.
Can I just say, this is the levels to how big a club is. Liverpool fans think they're bigger than United as a club. if that was Bruno missing that penalty like he did when Ole was in charge, it was, Bruno missed a penalty, so Ole gets sacked. He's not happy with the manager. All these stories get spun. Salah misses a penalty, misses the easiest follow-up that you're going to get in football, and it's, unlucky, good save, Kasper Schmeichel. Like, it just shows that when Liverpool do something wrong, they kind of like put it under the rug. We don't want to talk about it, but if a Lukaku does something wrong, if a Kane does something wrong, if a Ronaldo does something wrong, that's what sells papers.
Absolutely. I mean, they definitely have their favourites, so let's be real. I want to talk stats just for a minute because, Tony, we mentioned again, Leicester last week, they managed how many shots on target last week? 8 or something, was it, with 25% possession? This week, 36% possession, 1 shot on target, but it was the winning goal. It just shows that stats aren't everything in football, are they? Like, Liverpool 4 shots on target here. 2 of them were, one of them was Salah because the other one hit the crossbar. And yeah, Leicester get the massive result. So it's a poor result for Liverpool. Massive result for Leicester, who kind of keeps him in the hunt for that European football. Again, Tony, we were saying that is it priority for them to push for Conference League, or should they push again for Europa League, I suppose? Yeah, massive result. It would have been great to have what his thoughts on the game, but unfortunately he's not here. We'll have to wait.
Don't have any international players, so it's harder to play against them.
You're not mimicking Morty here. You're mimicking Klopp, aren't you, Tony? Let's talk about that. I want to hear your thoughts on the Klopp situation. Like you just said there, he's blamed Burnley somehow for their loss to Leicester. What's Klopp doing?
I mean, it's honestly a joke. I mean, but you've got to look at it. I mean, Pep does the same thing. You have Pep who comes out and complains that we need 5 subs and then makes his first sub in the 80th minute. So, I mean, I guess it's what the managers do. They want to get in everyone's head while they're talking football. And I don't know, poor Burnley. They can't win games and they can't win with Klopp. So it's a hard day for them.
We'll keep on the trend of managers with excuses because Thomas Tuchel's done the exact same thing after this game. Chelsea 1-1 with Brighton. Not a great result at all. Speaking about the game at hand to start, we didn't deserve to go up 1-0. It was a very even game to start. Brighton came out the blocks firing. We went up 1-0. That's great. Then nothing happened. We didn't register another shot at all, just a shot. For I think it was like 45 minutes or something, 60 minutes even, between that and the next shot. So Brighton came to play. We didn't. We can't kill off teams like it should be, like a City does. And we'll punish for it in the 91st minute. Danny Welbeck off the bench and scored. So Brighton deserved more from this game. We probably didn't even deserve a draw at this game, but we're going to have to take it. It's not a great result. Puts us temporarily second above Liverpool. They've got a game in hand, but that's my thoughts on it. I don't know what else to say. Reece James has now torn his hamstring. That's another wing back that's out. I know one of you will probably mention the Lukaku comments. They were actually 4 weeks old, those comments, so a lot's changed since then. It's just the interviews come out now. But, yeah, what were your thoughts on the game, Tony, before we speak about Tuchel and everything else?
That boy Welbeck, man, he has this thing about scoring late. I mean, he's been waiting for a while to get that goal against Chelsea. It's something he's always said that he wanted. It's been a while. Like you said, Brighton deserved, if we look at the game as a whole, as an unbiased opinion, Brighton deserved to win that game. They came out, they took the game to you. You scored a goal against the run of play, and I'm not saying, obviously, I think City's won the championship, but if it was a lot closer, those points where you can get a point when you're getting dominated are the games that can win championships. But, again, poor result, and I just think you guys are in a bad run of form. You're dropping players with injuries, obviously the COVID cases that you had. It's a rough time to be a Chelsea fan at the moment, especially. I know you're sitting second, but you could have been a lot more clear if you're getting those results that you should be getting. Yeah,
it's harsh because, like you say, we're in a rough run of form, but we still haven't lost games in that run. Like I said, it's one, I mentioned in the previous, one loss in our last 19 now, I think. But draws just at this level, being a team fighting for a league title, aren't good enough. And a draw does feel like a loss. Campo, what were your thoughts on the game?
Especially a draw in the 91st minute feels like a loss. Again, Morpay, there's a lot of good saves from Indy that game. Brighton also just wasting their chances. And again, they should have won the game, but that's football. You don't take your chances and you don't win.
I think Brighton finally got a result where they deserved it, though. Like, I guess I said they should have got more, but they finally got a result where a lot of these times the putting these shots on target, the XG, for example, and they come out with nothing. So for them to get something here, it probably does feel like a bit of a win for them. To go to the bridge, I suppose, against a team that was so solid last year defensively and have more possession, have more passes, have more shots on target and shots in general. It's impressive from Brighton. And if they can build on that, they can push up higher in the ladder. They're only 6-7 points off the European spots. So is it possible that they're still in hunt for those? We don't know yet. But if they recruit well in January, if they can strengthen a little bit and get a bit more depth, maybe they could go on a decent run. But yeah, it does look as though it's City's title to lose at this point, which will take us into this result here. Brentford 0, City 1. It wasn't as easy as they would have liked, but they got the 3 points, and that's what matters. Campo, we'll go straight back to you. What were your thoughts on this one?
City dominated, had a late offside goal ruled out for Laporte as well. But again, it's just that game could have finished 0 or just as easy if they marked Harry Kane's the same as they marked Phil Foden's. But the way the cookie crumbles, City get the goal, and Brentford had their chances but couldn't take them. But City deserved all 3 points, and they go, I think, is it 9 points clear now?
8 points of Chelsea, 9 of Liverpool. Liverpool's game in hand, still to play. So yeah, it's not all but wrapped up because that's not that many points. But a team like City, who's won how many games straight now? 10 in a row. It looks too easy for them. Tony, what were your thoughts on the game and City basically winning the league?
I said this in the preview. I spoke about how we all thought City would get that result, but Brentford weren't just going to be a team that just rolled over. So it's exactly what I expected. Brentford have shown throughout the year at home they can defend, and they're going to defend with that crowd. So yes, City dominated, but in the grand scheme of things, they only had 3 shots on target. So I can have 20 shots from halfway, and it's going to show that I had 20 shots. But if they're not on target, is it as dominant as we thought? For City, they got their 1-0 lead, and it looked like a training session. So Brentford went into that game not expecting any points, and to lose 1-0, keep their goal difference in check, I think it's a good game for Brentford.
Yes, but I think there's a lot they can build on from that result. It would have been interesting to see what happened if Ivan Toney puts that one away that he couldn't quite get his head onto it and just scraped past the post. I think that changes the game completely. I think that was just at 1-0, or maybe even 0-0 at that point. If that goes in, that changes the game. Maybe City go and put 4 past them at that point. Who knows? But it would have been interesting to see the game open up a little bit. But like you said, Tony, you predicted that Brentford would keep it close, and they did. They take it to teams, and that's what I'm expecting for Watford. Maybe not in Norwich because they don't have the team to do it, but at Watford even, you want to see them do that against a big boy, whereas no, they go and get shipped for 5-6 because they think they're a bit too stubborn and think they can go play this football that just doesn't work. And that's why Sheffield United had success a couple of years ago before they obviously got relegated. But yeah, it works for some teams. It doesn't work for others, I suppose. And that's where a manager earns his money, I think, in how he lines up against a bigger team. All right, we move into the final game of the round, I believe. Tony, you can start us off. It was United 3-1 over Burnley. McTominay with a man-of-the-match performance. Ronaldo scoring. Jadon Sancho didn't quite score because Ben Mee got the own goal. Talk to us, Tony. Thoughts on the game?
I mean, thoughts on me first. Up at 5:30 to get to the city to watch this game, obviously with the supporters club. So it's starting to kick in. I'm not sure. Obviously, it is New Year's Eve. I'm not sure if I'll make it to New Year's Day before I have a nap. So we'll see how we go. But obviously, the result on hand, we came out of the blocks. It was end to end. We probably could have been down 1 or 2-0 at the start. We turned it around. Obviously, McTominay with a brilliant finish. First goal. The second goal pops up. Sancho. It was going wide. I mean, I would have loved for him to get credit for it because I think half the pub almost spilt their drinks all over him when that goal did go in. But it's gone down as a Mee own goal. So you move on. But I think that does a world of confidence for Sancho. And then you move on to the third goal. Again, like I was on the United podcast this morning, and as much as you're happy Ronaldo scores that goal, you're gutted because McTominay had another absolute cracker and it almost went in. So, and then you flick on to, let's talk about my favourite 2 positions, Maguire, Eric Bailly. His touch is worse than Lukaku's Eric's for that first goal. Bounces it off, gives it straight to Burnley. Maguire was running to the corner flag rather than stepping in and trying to defend, and obviously we got punished, but I mean, the second half, if I'm being honest, quite boring. I think both teams were kind of content with the result that was at hand. Burnley would have gone there not expecting to get points, and United would have gone expecting to get 3 points. So for me, the second half kind of just was go through the motions, finish the game, and let's get into the new year.
Yeah, we spot on about that defensive, I suppose, that goal that they scored, Burnley. If that happens at 0-0 and Burnley got 1-0, it's a tricky game for you. So you're lucky you are 3-0 up at that point because you haven't been great recently, and you failed, I suppose, to kill off teams and stuff and cop these cheap goals. So Maguire's lucky you're up 3-0 at this point, and it could just fizzle out. The game could just kind of end how it finished the first half. What were your thoughts, Campo, on this game?
I was quite impressed with all the outside noise from United saying that players are already turning on the manager, all these white noise, and they come out there and they put a performance in that first half like that. I was impressed by United on that front. But again, Burnley, with all their injuries, they had Will Hennessy in goals. I don't know. They're missing Cornet, they're missing Barnes. They have a lot of outs, and if they had a few COVID cases, they wouldn't have been playing that game. So, when they're full strength, that game might have been tighter, but fair play to United. They took their chances and they deserve 3 points.
Well, it's the first game since Ralph's come in that they've scored 3 goals under his helm. It now puts them, with the game in hand, if they win that, they go 1 point behind Arsenal in 4th. So it's getting back to how it should be at United. I mean, you should be fighting for titles, but that'll come, I suppose, hopefully. But yeah, Tony, are you happy with where United are standing going into the new year, or how are you feeling?
I mean, it's a tough one. It's always not a good time to be outside that top 4, especially a club like United. Like we said, we should be challenging for titles, but in the grand scheme of things, I think any fan you ask that isn't deluded knows we're not fighting for titles for a few years still. We're still trying to not rebuild because we have the players, but we're still trying to work on that system. Obviously, the players are learning a new system under Ralph. So, I mean, to be sitting, I think, 6th? Like you said, we win, we're a point behind 4th, potentially 2 behind if Tottenham win both their games. I mean, it's a good position to be in. Seeming we were sitting 10th a couple months ago. So, it's a tough one, but I will give you one more stat, actually. We were the only team before today that hadn't scored in the first 15 minutes of a game. So we finally got that hoodoo off our back. We scored in the first 15 minutes, and hopefully the new year brings some good results on the ref.
Spot on. Well, speaking of the new year, that's all we're going to have time for is the final, as I said earlier, podcast of the year. We're going to be straight back in, recording straight after this for tomorrow, which is going to be the first podcast of 2022. Keen to see the new year roll in and see how the Prem unfolds. Congratulations, City, I suppose, for winning the title already. We'll see who gets relegated. But thanks for joining us. Thanks for a great year, lads. And we'll see you very shortly for 2022.
Beautiful.
Peace.
Peace.